I'm Julia Davis, a film major who stumbled into the business world with no experience in 2006. I was able to fail enough to learn how to run a seven-figure business and have provided consulting services to over 200 individually owned companies. Through this podcast, I hope to provide some perspective on the growth and grit it takes to accomplish big goals and share some hard lessons I've had to learn along the way. Thanks for joining me on the Growth and Grit podcast. My name is Julia Davis, and over the last several weeks, I've been talking about the 10 biggest mistakes that I made running my business in my first decade of running a company. And today I'm talking about mistake number 8. And if you missed the last ones, you can go back through the archives and check out the last 8 recordings that I did and see if one of them resonates with you. And if they do, share them with people that you think could hear that, or if you recognize the mistake somebody's making, hopefully this can help them. If you want to find me in the future or need help with something specifically based on those, you can always find me on Instagram at julia.bizstories. And you can look me up on there and I can help you. You can schedule a time. There's a link in my bio to do that. So today I'm talking about mistake number 8 that I made when I was first running my business. And I've covered a lot of this stuff, but one of them that I see a lot of people doing to this day, but I know I did it when I first started, that really hurt me, was not sharing the negatives. So mistake number 8 is not sharing the negatives. I think that sometimes we feel like if we just ignore something, it will go away. Like a conversation, we all know that that's not true. Like if somebody's doing something wrong, you're like, oh, they'll fix it. They probably won't until you have a conversation. But there were like a lot of things that would happen. Like maybe maybe some new guys got paychecks that were a little bit lower than they expected, or maybe, a top person quit, or maybe my company got a negative review on something, or whatever it was. And when I was new, I would just kind of like ignore it and just hope that people would come to me and ask. And I'm like, well, if they want to know, they'll ask. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. And my response probably wasn't always the best. But what I learned as I started to get more seasoned in running and operating a company and going through a lot more trial and error is that the best way to tackle negatives is just to talk about them constantly. So every time that I was in front of the team, I was talking about stuff that was going on that could potentially be negative and why it happened. So I would talk about why people would quit stuff, and I would not slander them or say that anything was wrong with that candidate, but it's just not for everybody. Like, we were in the direct sales industry. It's hard. It's time consuming. It's exhausting. So it makes sense why people quit. Like, it's okay. And it's not designed to retain everybody, but talking about that was so helpful for people to understand, like, oh, yeah, that does make sense, right? Like, not everybody is designed to do direct sales. Like, it's just hard. So talking about that makes a lot of sense. I would also talk about negative reviews that my company would get. I would say, hey, we got a negative review. Let me read it. And I would just read it in front of everyone. I'm like, okay, does anyone is there any truth to this? What can we learn from it? How can we get better because of this? Why do you think someone wrote this? Like, were they trained poorly? Like, why did they have this negative experience with our company? How can we improve? Because we don't want people to think this way after they leave. No ill will against them. They're giving us feedback essentially, but it's just in a very public way. And I didn't want people to find it on their own and be like, oh, I wonder why she never talks about this. But I also think there's a lot of value in the negatives. So you're talking about the negative things I think is really, really important. And I would talk about, why our clients got negative reviews, because maybe people weren't representing them properly or running businesses properly or whatever it was. I would just run straight into those because I do think addressing the negative gives you a lot of opportunity to communicate your side of the story. If people are just reading something, like if you see your favorite restaurant online and there's a negative review written about it, you're not just going to believe that because you've been there 100 times. But if you've never gone, you for sure are going to believe it. If you had never been there and ate there, you're like, ugh. I mean, I read reviews and stuff all the time. So I think for me personally, to make sure that like the people that I was building and developing in business understood like where my heart was, where my head was, that was a really important thing for me to do. I would address all the stuff that I knew people were thinking but not saying. So I want you to think about that when you're running meetings or talking to your guys. Like, what is the elephant in the room? Like, what are people thinking about but not saying? Like, maybe it's really cold outside. Maybe it's really hot outside. Maybe it's maybe somebody had a really terrible experience with the leader they worked with. Maybe somebody saw a new guy start and then never show up again. Like maybe someone got a paycheck that was weird. Somebody, there was an error, like maybe something was going on. But I think the more you talk about and address and are transparent with the negatives, the more people really respect what you're trying to build, but also they realize you're not trying to hide anything from them. And that was really important for me because I wanted to run a clean, honest business. So the more I shared about stuff, the more questions that I brought up, and the more people felt comfortable coming to me with negatives. But I didn't pretend to be this happy, glossed over person all the time. I just helped it make sense as to why it happened, and, like, maybe it was justified and we need to fix something, and maybe it wasn't, and that's okay too, but how you handle that and how you talk about it is also very, very important. So, like, when you're bringing something up, it's not negatively talk like, don't negatively talk about anybody. It's just not a good look for you, and it's just not a good integrity quality, but, um think about, like, what are people thinking? And what do I need to address head on? And just talk about it, bring it up. And you'll see, like, it'll be like the sense of freedom in your business where everything is just so out in the open that there are just no skeletons in any closet. So whatever people see or hear, they're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, we know about that." Um, and that's a really great way to run a business, but it was one that I was really afraid of when I first started because I was like, "I just have to retain everyone. This has to be this positive, happy atmosphere at my business all the time," when in reality, like, no one expects that. They just expect honesty and they expect transparency, and you can do that through being really open and honest about negatives. So, I hope this one helps you, this tip helps you. This was definitely a mistake that I made, and I hope that by me talking about it, it can help you prevent the same mistake. If you wanna reach out to me for sure on Instagram on how to package and present a negative or something going on in your business or whatever, and you're like, "How do I talk about this?" Reach out to me. I'll help you figure it out. So don't be afraid to shoot me a message, and I'm happy to help. Thanks so much for being on. Every week on the Growth and Grit podcast, we bring you real stories and practical tools to help you thrive through challenges. If this resonates with you, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this podcast with someone who could use it too. It only takes a second, but it would mean the world to us, and it keeps you plugged in to fresh inspiration.